Hey guys, um, I'm gonna start making videos, and these videos are gonna be slightly therapeutic for me. They're gonna be very therapeutic for me, but unlike all the other videos you're seeing when you're scrolling through and seeing all of these psychological and sociological issues that people are talking about, I'm not going to emotionally charge this video, and I'm not going to make this video so that I can put my situations and experiences and truths on to other people in a way as if everything can just be generalized and decontextualized into that little box, because I realize how diverse people are, and that things can be very different for different people, and that's the main thing. um, People are generalizing and decontextualizing. Decontextualizing means that you're looking at just one thing. And the thing that's happening with the most is behaviors. You cannot make a list of any kind of behavior, literally, that can say that if you just take it, just look at the behavior, the action, or the reaction, you absolutely cannot say that that is narcissistic, toxic, abusive. You cannot say that, because you have to look at the entire situation before you can understand. And it's not even usually possible to look at the whole situation. Essentially, it's none of your business. Of course, if you see someone beating or killing somebody or something, you're going to need to step in or have authorities step in. Not that the authorities necessarily even do anything. And I have some deep truths that I need to share with the world, because I'm dying. And I'm not going to not say that. I am dying. I have an aneurysm and a heart problem, and I've now had 51 near death experiences, and that's not something that very many people have lived through, or 6 heart attacks. So I'm going to share the truths that I have learned, that are things that certain perspectives that most people will not have experienced, things that are going to make most people uncomfortable, but are true because they're based on actual experience. And I'm very educated. I don't have any degrees, but I've taken a lot of classes, and those classes were not about people's opinions. I've studied science, neurology, um, psychology, and a lot of other things, anthropology, history, and I've also been a healer counselor to hundreds and hundreds of people successfully. So there are things that I know that are not just my own experience in my own life. And today I'm going to start with explaining my own situation, because that's why I feel like I have to make this video. I don't have anyone to talk to, and I've meditated for a long time, so I can keep this unemotionally charged and logical, but it is still involved with energy and emotion. And the biggest thing that I want people to understand out of this is we are not invincible. When people say anything's possible with what you have to work with. You have to understand what you actually have to work with before you can say everything's possible within that, within what you can reach. It's just not infinitely anything is possible from any reach. It takes a lot of work to get to certain reaches, and sometimes when you're in a situation where you're trying to heal or escape abuse or drastically change your life, sometimes you have to kind of look at what you have to work with right here, because people have limited energy, and you have to start there. Okay, though it can expand to the infinite, thinking that absolutely anything's possible will cause you to become delusional. And that's the first thing I want to address. A lot of these spiritual, labeled awakened or spiritual ideas are only one side of the coin and can be very unhealthy. And what's really unhealthy is scrolling and looking through lists of behaviors that are, like I said, decontextualized and generalized. And these people are making these videos in order to transmute their unhappiness, and psychologically, subconsciously, they want their paradigm to apply to other people because that makes them feel better. And then that turns into sort of grouping things. And no matter what, you cannot generalize behavior. Even if we're talking about somebody killing somebody, somebody beating somebody, somebody just yelling, or whatever the reaction is, all human beings have the ability to be pushed into situations if you take away their ability to have choice, their ability to have expression, their ability to have support. And we have to, that if you want to find unity in that. It isn't that there's these people that are bad, that are capable of these bad reactions, and these people that are good that are not. Though there's varying levels of emotional and nervous system strength. It starts with the empathy of realizing you don't know what led up to this situation. For all you know, this person is running away from a human trafficking situation, and they've been raped for years. You don't know. And that's why I'm going to go into the fact that inescapable trauma does exist. Inescapable situations exist. And that's the first thing you're going to need to face if you want to understand the reality of these possibilities that many people want to turn away from, so that they can pretend like we are invincible, anything's possible, and these things that really actually do a lot to limit people from being able to transform their lives. So, there are people in cages right now that cannot escape. There are animals in cages right now that cannot escape. And that is the extreme. There's people tied up, getting raped, getting beaten. There's people chained up that are slaves. And this is not just existing in third world countries. This is happening behind closed doors, in hotels and places that you don't even know. And that is true. There's mafias running all of these things. Now that's the extreme. But anybody, if they were tied up, raped, beaten, used as a slave, would get to the point where they would put a sledgehammer through somebody's head to get out of that situation, and that person would be very narcissistic and psychotic after that situation and need rehabilitation. You have the ability of being pushed to that level. I have the ability of being pushed to that level. So now what I'm going to do is take that, and I'm going to tell you that there's everything between that and an actual person that has support, a community, health, and ability to completely support and get themselves out of situations. Everybody wants to focus on these people that could do it on their own and did it on their own, but you can't always do it on your own. You need to try as hard as you can to do it on your own, but you cannot always do it on your own. And taking responsibility is often cutting people out of your life at any cost. And responsibility is also realizing that you can't do it on your own and finding the support that you need to do it on your own, to change your life, to escape abusive situations, to get out of a bad job where you're not able to function, and that which would also be abusive. Abuse is everywhere at this point. So people are living in this illusion that we're all becoming awakened because people are becoming more uniform. People are conforming more. There isn't really much subculture left. Everything's just alternative, which just means that there's a group of people that can agree over here. Subculture would mean you could be completely different from everybody else on the planet, and other people would still accept you. Instead, there are committees of approval and cliques and groups, and you can't be in any group of people without having to have the committee of approval of agreeing on all these things. And that is limiting free thinking. It's limiting open-minded free thought. And we need to be able to be completely as diverse as we can be and still be accepted. We don't need to think the same things. Okay? So all of the stuff I'm talking about here is not going to be a belief. It is not going to be an opinion. It is not going to be a perspective. And that is one of the main things that people need to get out of their head, is that everything is a belief or a perspective or an opinion. It is not. I'm going to give you experiences that happened, that actually happened, that are possible to happen to you, to me, to everyone. And if you're lucky enough that they don't happen to you, that's great. That does not make it a perspective. It actually happened in the third dimension. Okay? So a perspective would be, like what most of the psychological and sociological videos that you're seeing around here. They have an emotionally charged, opinionated, biased perspective. I don't have that. But what I do have is actual experiences to share with you. So I'm going to start with my own life, and that's because right now I am about to escape I am about to attempt to escape an abusive situation that I've been in for over 5 years. And I have been being abused for over a decade, and there has not been an ability for me to escape. There has not been a way to get rid of that abuse in my life. I've tried everything. And that is why I have all these physical problems, because I have not had the support and the community and the ability to do that, because 80% of rape cases go unsolved. The cops don't necessarily help. They might not. The cops tend to help more when somebody is an upstanding member of the community or a homeowner, or if that person is rich and has lawyers. And sometimes they decide to double down on those people to make a point. But if you're just a nobody and with no money, it is difficult to get the police to do anything. And I've been in situations where I actually had abuse and rape videotaped and recorded, had the address of the person. This was in California, and nothing happened because of the fact that people called the cops and told them that I was fraudulent. And even though I was able to prove I was not fraudulent by getting a psychological evaluation, the doubt caused them to release and not care. And nothing happened. And those abusers went free. And they will abuse another woman again. I know, and other people again. So, I've had a series of narcissistic boyfriends, and I've been healing myself to try to realize why and how that happens, but it is incredibly difficult and nearly impossible to be able to understand, to be able to identify when someone is a narcissist in a lot of situations, because they are perfect at pretending. And so acting like when someone is abused it was somehow a shortcoming of them is not necessarily the case. There are sociopaths and narcissists that are capable of being fake to the point where no one would be able to identify it. And that's another thing people need to realize. There are narcissists probably in almost every single person who's watching this has a narcissist in their life that they don't think is a narcissist. There's a large amount of narcissists that go completely undetected for their whole lives, and people that are highly respected, people that are even considered spiritual gurus and healers, and all. It's everywhere and mixed into every single community, and you don't know it. And you won't know it until you get extremely close to that person And what I mean by that is spending 24 hours a day with them, 7 days a week. That is the only way you could know. And people are against being that close to somebody now, which allows narcissism to run rampant. And a lot of people nowadays, people are focused on the fact that crime and violence are going down, but what they're not focusing on is all this anti-police stuff is making people report stuff a lot less. So we don't actually know what those rates are at. I can tell you that in my life, violent crime and violence and crime and abuse and things like that have increased in the communities that I've been in, and it's not because of the communities I'm in. Um, Talking to people from many different walks of life, it's not getting better. And the proof of that is that mental illness is skyrocketing, disability is skyrocketing, and suicide is skyrocketing. And as long as those three things are skyrocketing, our culture is failing. Unemployment, homelessness, these things are skyrocketing. Drug use. Drug use is not, most drug use is not just drug use because the person just chose to be a drug addict. In most cases, drug addicts are that way because they could not receive the support they needed to live the life they needed to live, and they ended up homeless or abused without support or some other unprocessed trauma or inability to transform their life. Drug use is the reaction. It's not the problem. So if we had a supportive community to be able to help people rehabilitate their lives, that's what will get drug use to go down. So, and then from there, I'm going to tell you that homeless shelters are terrible. Um, and someone like me would never be able to do that. I have to have completely my own room with no noise. I have extremely sensitive nerves. I will get sick and die if I do not have that. I would not be capable of sleeping on a bunk and worrying about my things getting stolen and dealing with all of these people that are also just as unhappy as me. And then it's just not a good situation to put a bunch of suffering people together, whether we're talking about an old folks home or a hospital or a homeless shelter, a rehabilitation center, though some of those can be okay. It's not normally beneficial. I'm sure there are some group homes and stuff like that out there that are, but you also have to be able to have money to be into any of the ones that are decent usually. And some people like me literally cannot have a social obligationary situation of having to be communal. I cannot. I'm not capable. My nerves are too hurt from being abused for 10 years. I need to be alone. I need to just do what I need to do. And I need to do that for a couple of years before I can slowly integrate things back into my life that I feel are fit, not that are being forced on me as a conformity. Everyone can't conform. Everyone's not the same. And the people that cannot conform are mostly being forced into situations where they have no choice but to die. And even myself, I don't have anyone to talk to because I have always been a counselor healer type person, and I cannot do that anymore right now for my energy to heal my body, because I've been abused so much. I need to just take care of me. Having conversations with the people in my life requires me to also be there for them, and sometimes you can't. And sometimes saying, oh, just go find a counselor, good luck. Because if you're an extremely different person like me, I would not be able to talk to a counselor without them trying to put me in the hospital or call the police. I'm not capable of being in a hospital from all the energy in the situations. Those situations do not work for me. And this is where I'm going to get into the trapped part. I have been trapped. I have had no way out. Absolutely. I have a very high IQ. I try everything I can try. When you're getting abused, you can't even think straight. When you're getting yelled at and degraded and everything about you torn down, and that shaking of your nervous system, which is not a mental disorder, it's actually physical. If you're getting treated that way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if it's physical abuse or emotional abuse, verbal abuse. It doesn't matter. Everything is physical. Energy is physical. Getting emotionally treated bad causes physical problems. I don't have any mental problems. When I get checked, I'm fine. It's just a bunch of adrenaline, lack of dopamine, inability to produce cortisol, which is the thing that allows your organs and body to calm down. I literally can't even lay down when I want to lay down because my heart will be beating out of my chest. I have to get up and I have to work out and I have to stretch and I have to do things. It's a level of difficulty that most people would not be able to deal with and would die. It's fatal. Abuse is fatal. Not living the life that you need to live for you without having to worry about everybody else's uniform conformity ideas, it will kill you. And it isn't that people are less or more sensitive. It's more that these people can live this way and these people can live this way, and it's just two different things. There's no such thing as too sensitive. What there is nervous systems that can feel more, which makes them more aware. So I'm about to try to permanently cut my abuser out of my life. He's been following me and stalking me. He keeps coming and knocking on my door. He stalked me all the way from states away. He takes advantage of me when I'm in a vulnerable state and comes into my life to make a bunch of promises because I haven't had proper support when I am literally on my deathbed from an extreme physiological problem. I would sometimes unconsciously, while I'm blacked out, reach out to him, at which time he would exploit me, take all my money, make promises, and then abuse me again. It was just the cycle. And I didn't have a way to control that because when you are blacked out on your deathbed, when I am blacked out on my deathbed, I'm going to reach for someone. And uncontrollably. I have the ability to communicate when I am so blacked out, and I don't say or do things I don't mean at that time. But needing love is okay, and I do. And that's been the personal problem I've had. But I have not been doing that now in a very long time. And I am still getting stalked when I walk out of my door, getting my door knocked on, and I cannot call the police. I cannot call the police because this person has millionaire parents that are lawyers. I've already tried calling the police on him. When I called the police on him, he kidnapped me and abused me. And he abused me so bad that I couldn't think straight for many months, and I could not escape the situation. The only people that were offering me ways out were offering me situations that I would not have survived in. And I have a right to say that. It isn't, oh, just do it anyway. No, I'm not going to die living in a situation that I cannot handle. I'm not going to go and be somewhere where it's going to trigger my trauma and make me not able to function because I know that will happen. So I didn't have a way out. He abused me all the way until the court date passed. I was so sick from being abused that I wouldn't even have been able to call anybody, call the court or anything like that to do anything about it. And the case got dropped. And so calling the cops didn't work. I had a restraining order and he was still stalking me everywhere. And I couldn't call the police. There's always been a reason why I can't call the police. And it was always that he knew something about me that he would do. Like, if I had some stuff, some really expensive, important stuff that I had to live with, that I couldn't live without in his storage, he would throw it away. Or if he knows where I live, he will go out of his way to make a big enough scene that I will get kicked out. and I'm not physically strong enough to be able to deal with those situations. Ending up on the street in a place like Portland, Oregon, where I most certainly would have been victimized. I did not have the ability to do that. I did not have the ability to lose my entire life savings worth of stuff that I use to survive in businesses. These are not decisions I could have made. And the way that people are, because they don't want to face that things are not possible, is they'll just say, oh, you could have, because they don't want to face inescapable. But it's real. We can't make decisions when we're smart enough to know that those decisions lead to a terrible future where we wouldn't be able to survive anyway. So then I would just escape a situation to feel terrible for the rest of my life and die. Sorry, I have a little bit more respect than that. And I do know how things are going to turn out because after just my whole life of experience and talking to people, I have clairvoyance, and I am almost always right about my intuitive clairvoyance because I've worked on that. And it's not an ego. I have a right to have a, it's not a negative ego. It's a healthy ego. And I have a right to have a healthy ego and say that I know what's going to happen, and I avoid those timelines. I avoid those choices. I have a right to say that without people coming to me and wanting me to feel less good about myself about things that have been conclusively scientifically proven in my life, just because it makes them uncomfortable to realize that there are absolutely inescapable abuse and trauma situations, inescapable life situations, and sometimes it could be as simple as the person cannot think straight because they don't get the time and space to be able to clear themselves to do so because of their living situation, their work situation, whatever their other life situation is. Our brains do not work correctly unless we are able to flow and think and feel and do things that make us feel good, because we get dopamine responses from that. We have to be able to relax and have cortisol responses from that. Too much adrenaline in our system will scramble us. And we have to be able to do just what we think we should do. And even though a lot of people don't even understand how to take care of themselves and truly self-care, put the devices away, stop distracting yourself, and actually take care of your body and your mind, sit still, let yourself process. A lot of people don't know that. So because a lot of people don't know that, everybody just assumes nobody knows that. So there are adults in this world. There are people that are actually mature, responsible, know how to self-care. But self-care is not the entirety of the paradigm, or we would not be living in separate bodies in a world where we have communities of people. We're here to have community support, interactions with other people that don't hurt us, and they don't have to be all these just pseudo interactions where you're only talking when you're okay and you're only sharing whatever people would label as positive things. That isn't we're not just supposed to only be communal in those situations. We're here to help each other, and we need to help each other. Compassion is a necessity for the survival of humanity. It was either Buddha or the Dalai Lama that said that. But so I have had an inability to escape this abusive situation that has continuously gave me amnesia. You get amnesia when you get traumatized, and you can't control what traumatizes you beyond a certain point. Yes, we all have to do self-work to be able to make sure that we are not being traumatized by everything, and try to minimize the things that affect our emotions as much as we can without other people telling us which thing, oh, this thing is something you are not allowed to have an emotional reaction to. No one is allowed to say that. You are an individual. You have ancestry, DNA, experiences, and all of those things are going to create things that emotionally affect you in different ways, and you cannot necessarily just make them go away. You can't make them all go away, and if you try to make them go away for a long time with all your effort and they don't go away, it is not a shortcoming that you have that emotional trigger or limitation or boundary or thing that you cannot experience, and you have to just cut it out of your life and avoid it, even if it's something that almost everybody else thinks is okay. It doesn't matter. You're an individual. How you live your life does not need to live up to other people's standards. What your emotional boundaries and triggers and limitations are does not have to live up to other people's standards. People need to stop thinking about that about other people. It is none of their business. It's none of their business who you are, how you live your life, and if anybody wants to judge it and make it their business, then those people are most likely hiding unhealed parts of themselves, things that they accepted that they shouldn't have, things that they needed to change that they didn't. They settled. They're putting up with things. They're not being their genuine self, and so you have to not be your genuine self too. And that's what I'm talking about, the uniformity, conformity that's actually leading to the singularity, which means that, and when we get to the singularity, what happens is like a whole bunch of people die, or a species goes extinct, and these things are scientific. Diversity is required. So stop trying to be like everyone else. You don't need to have any, you don't need to be approved by other people. We need to stop thinking that we need to be approved by people, and we need to stop approving and disapproving. It doesn't matter if it's like somebody else, and all this mirroring, it's creating a vast virus of mental illness. Everyone can be an individual, and when we are actually at unity, we will accept that. And people will evolve in all these different directions, and sure, you're going to try to find people that are similar to you, but they're just going to be that way. You're not going to make them that way by bullying them and putting them down and rejecting them and judging them and decontextualizing their experience and labeling their action and reaction as toxic, narcissistic, abusive, negative. It's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to have compassion, which means succeeding in helping someone. If you don't succeed, you didn't have compassion. Compassion is you just keep trying until you succeed. To connect to another person and try to see things from their experience and try to understand that it could be so vastly different from yours that you can't understand it. You can't, it doesn't make sense from your experience, and you have to accept it anyway. And that is when you will be reaching a level of unity and compassion. So I'm not going to die without telling these truths. These truths are not just my own individual universe. They're not just a perspective. These truths are things that I have actually experienced. And they're not true for anyone. They're true for everyone, if they will open their mind. Because I'm talking about accepting everyone's differences. That's not a perspective. That's what needs to happen to reach true unity. So I could die trying to escape this abusive person. In the past, I've almost died when I was trying to escape other abusive people. Being a compassionate, empathic, giving, very loving, very giving, very understanding person, people get very attached to me. And I'm thankful for that in some ways, because some people have gone out of their way to keep me alive through all these situations, because they know that I have the ability to contribute something to a community that very few people left on earth can do, which is a true level of shamanism. Because in a lot of cultures, the shaman is an exile, is not a popular person, is not somebody who gets community approval. They are a weird, twisted, strange person that does things that are off the wall. That's what most shaman in most of the tribal and native communities that I learned from are about. Eccentric. So that's the kind of shaman I am, because there needs to be some people trying to see things from a different point of view. Now, point of view and perspective are not the same thing. Perspective is something in your mind, And point of view is actually being in a different situation. So I'm going to try to share these things. And I don't know if I'm going to successfully escape this situation. In the past, like I said, I cannot call the police. I'm in a situation where I have, because of the 10 years of abuse, lost most of my following, lost most of my friends. Most people have given up on me or whatever. And that happens. And it's not my fault that that happened. That happened because of the misunderstanding that people have of the diverse points of view. And the misunderstanding that you cannot always get out of the situation on your own, and that there is inescapable situations. So I'm going to do everything I can. I only have a few people in my life that I could count on, because people don't want to face my reality, because it shakes their foundations sometimes of their ideas. And like I said, most people act like we're invincible and anything's escapable and anything's possible and all that kind of stuff. That, like I said, it's sort of almost creating an illusion, basically. And people have to have that illusion so much that they would let someone else die to keep their illusion. That's how sick our society is. And that's why I can't find the support to get out of this situation. It's taken a lot for me to clear my mind to even remember who I am or what's going on with the amnesia from the extreme adrenaline from the abuse, and my heart stopping and not being able to produce dopamine, because you have to be able to set goals and achieve goals and have controllable situations in your life to have enough dopamine for your heart to even beat regularly, to be able to sleep, be able to eat, be able to exercise, be able to do anything. And if someone goes out of their way to not let anything happen in your life that you want, that you need, that you plan for, your dopamine will get depleted to the point where you cannot function, and that is called psychogenic death. It's unrelated to depression, and it's not a mental illness. It is just, you will die uncontrollably unless you can have things in your life that are your way, and you have to have a lot of them. Of course, it's not going to be everything, but if you have enough of them, it doesn't matter if it's everything. And these devices and the social media are depleting our dopamine and messing with our serotonin. It's literally as bad as a drug addiction. And everybody's doing it. Everybody just goes and spaces out to Netflix or YouTube or whatever. And I'm not saying I don't do that sometimes. But we need to not rely on that. And we need to learn to rely on each other more. There's no unity coming when we're all in these little separate little boxes with these addictive things that are messing with our brain chemicals, that are making it so that we can't function and think properly. Your IQ varies. Usually when you take a test, that's like when you're at your best. But your IQ will go down and it will go up. Your awareness will go up and go down. Your memory will come back and go away. All because you need your body to function correctly, because of these chemicals that you need to have in your body, that you need to have good, positive experiences in your life that are in your control in order to be able to have. And taking medication for it is not the answer. Fixing your life is the answer. Vitamins, supplements, nutrition, exercise, going out into nature, walking away from electronics, and not having people interfere with you, those are all very important things. Self-care is really important, but it's only one half of the coin. So, wish me luck. I'm going to call people here just in a couple hours when everybody gets up. I've been up all night thinking about this. I almost died from an aneurysm rupture yesterday. I have an aneurysm right here, and that happened from abuse. I never know if I'm going to wake up when I lay down. I don't even know if I'm going to get to sleep. My heart might just start beating, and I'm not having any psychological problems other than I'm just, at this point, I have used my spiritual tools to the point where I'm like, this is physiological. I'm not going to let it affect my brain. But at that point, I still can't think straight. I can't communicate correctly. I can't make decisions. I can't do anything. I just have to turn everything off, clear my mind. And this is a tool I hope that you can learn to use too, and just not let my mind go on any of the reliving of the traumas or anything, though you do have to do that when you're calm, go over it again. That's the golden method for PTSD. You do have to do that. But if you're at the point where your heart's beating out of your chest and you can't sleep and you can't eat and you can't think, you just have to clear it all out and sit still until the chemicals pass enough that you can go to sleep. And there are supplements you can take to help calm your nerves and things like that. And then you just have to let it pass. And then I slept and I woke up cleared of all that, and I had clarity that I do not want to die from abuse. I do not want to die trapped. And I am going to do everything I can not to just go into the corner and die so that it doesn't inconvenience other people and so that it doesn't make other people upset, or because they don't want to face the fact that there is a such thing as inescapable. I'm going to push because I know how much the world needs these truths. And I know there are certain people in situations like me that probably don't even realize it because everybody's just telling them to self-care and get through it on their own and anything's possible, and there's no such thing as inescapable, and all of these things that scientifically could not be possible and are very, very delusional. You don't have to just keep looking at, if you're looking at the bright side so much that it makes you delusional, it's not positive anymore. It's toxic positive. You have to be able to go into the darkness and slowly work back into the light. That's taking the stuff over here that isn't processed, isn't taken care of. There's all this stuff over here that needs to be dealt with. And we slowly go on a wavelength of transformation until we're in the light. And then that's the actual light, the light that does not burn you from being so bright that it's forcing itself down your throat. Because everybody that does a certain thing is not a narcissist or toxic or abusive or negative or whatever. You don't know their situation, and it's not capable for you to know their situation, and it's none of your business. So we just need to start caring about people. And yeah, you have to be careful to watch out for liars and all that kind of stuff, but that doesn't mean you have to make the whole world into a liar and to react to the whole world as if it's a liar. All of this stuff is shortcuts to thinking, shortcuts to feeling, shortcuts to actually doing the work, to having a true human connection. You can't just generalize and decontextualize things. Those two problems are ruining humanity. So do we want to rehabilitate humanity? Or do you just want to let by the flip of the coin, all the people that end up in the dark just die? And then all we have left is all these people that don't know how to go into the dark and bring it into the light, which inevitably will lead to the demise of our species and our society and humanity. Okay? So here I go. Wish me luck.